Hey, welcome to episode 19 of Tangible Takeaways. So glad to have you with us. I'm Jackson, and today I'm going to tell you how we can reframe our hobbies so that they can be helpful.
And my name's Paul. Great to be here, and I'm going to share with you how I avoid going down the rabbit hole of negativity when I've got people in my life or things in my life that seem to be pulling me that way.
All that and more on this episode of Tangible Takeaways. Hey, welcome to episode 19 of Tangible Takeaways. Thanks for being on, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
It's fun.
Yeah, fun to get to have you back. You were our first guest.
Yes.
And now you're on the 19th episode.
Wow.
20 would have maybe felt more like a complete
Yeah, that would have been
but
like more of a real milestone to hit.
Yeah, but at least 1 to 19 is pretty good.
I'm happy to be
It's
here.
pretty good. Chopping up I kind of even want to just look at, our whole Real Love, Real Life series, because we wrapped it up this weekend. We've gone through all 3 of John's letters now. What would you say, just looking at, obviously they have there's a different emphasis across each of them, but it's all pinned by John, and they kind of have a lot of similarities as well. What would you say are some things you're just taking away from looking at John's 3 letters?
Yeah, there's a couple things for me. One, the repetitiveness of the books. Like, he just overly emphasizes certain themes or certain ideas. Obviously, the big one being love. Love one another. Love one another. You're in me if you love me. If you're not in me if you don't love your brother. All of that stuff, which I think in our culture today, like as I was thinking through this, for me and probably for most Christians that uphold God's word as truth, we always quote that verse that says, speak the truth in love. But it's always like the truth is more important in a sense. And I think for me I'd probably say in the last year, it's been a journey for me, but certainly in this last series has been, how about you still hold to the truth? You still have your convictions. I'm still disagree with many people in the media and the world, my friends, different things. But is my tone loving? The tone in which I'm talking to them? Am I less concerned about convincing them of the truth? Like, not even of my truth, but just like, can't you see this? It's so obvious.
Yeah.
And more, do they walk away feeling, man, I really feel like Paul is trying to understand me, loves me, genuinely cares for me, even if there's a difference of opinion. Yeah. And so, the series is it's this reiteration, love, 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 love. And I think that's probably less of what's my motivation, at least how I'm taking it, less of, because everybody probably says, my motivation is always to love. Yeah. The parent, I love you.
Yeah, we're horrible at being self-aware,
right?
Like,
but does the person I'm talking to feel loved by me?
Yeah, are they coming away and saying, man, Paul's super opinionated, or man, Paul and I disagree, but he cares about what's best for me. Yeah. Right? Like, those are very different ways to come away from a conversation.
And I don't think that comes from the content of what I'm saying. Yeah. Because I could say that. I care about you. Oh, he really does care about my, spiritual life or my parenting or my medical choices or whatever the hot button opinions are these days. But I really like Paul. I really felt this genuineness, this empathy, some compassion from him. And I feel loved by him. Yeah. And that's hard to do. And it's certainly hard for me to do. Yeah. And so I'm trying. It's
way less convenient than just kind of like spewing the truth in the name of the truth, right? Because then we can just kind of get off of our chest whatever we need to. Yeah. Whereas to say, man, I want somebody to walk away from the conversation feeling like I love them. That means I have to put a lot of thought into, man, what's the timing in which I bring this up? What's the relational context? How do I even frame this or think about this? What do I start with? Do I start with me talking or me listening? Like, all of those things, it's a lot more inconvenient to start with, man, how do I make sure that they walk away knowing that they're loved by me?
Yeah, and even like, just because I have a rebuttal, which I'm pretty good, and my wife says I should be a lawyer, I'm really good at always having a rebuttal for what you're gonna say. Yeah. Like, I could, just how I am, saying, do I even need to say that? Is that, like, I probably am right. Yeah. But is it even going to help?
Is it helpful?
And that's hard for me.
Yeah.
For sure. And so I've been trying to learn, and it's been hard, but these books have just reminded me, it's so repetitive. Love, 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 love. And if you don't love, you're not in me. If you don't love, you hate. Yeah. It's just a reminder for me.
And you think about the quiet and patient tact that God most of the time takes with us, right? Like he's not even like, I think I'm right about everything. He is right about everything.
If he demanded it, he could say, no, I'm king, I'm sovereign. But, but he doesn't.
I'm right about everything.
Yeah.
But instead, he's quiet and patient with us, and he doesn't say like, well, this is just true, so get on board with it. But there's this kind of slow process that he takes of really like, I mean, it's so outrageously humble of him to woo us, to like love him and to feel loved by him and to establish that as we come to obey him more, instead of just saying like, this is the way it is, you get on board or like you're gone, like, which is totally his prerogative. He could totally do that. But you think about, man, if God, who actually is right about everything, and I'm just somebody who thinks I'm right about everything, but if God, who actually is right about everything, takes that patient, loving tact where he's gonna listen and he's gonna be quiet and he's gonna woo us and remind us constantly of how he loves us, man, how do we think we're in any position to just kind of like beat people up and say this is the way things are?
Yeah, true that.
Yeah. So great takeaways from just kind of overarching John's letter. The third book is really about influence, right? That's a big theme that comes up. You've got kind of these two different influences that John's confronting in this very generically named guy's life that we don't really know who he is, but he's concerned about one guy who's a negative influence and really pushing him towards a more positive influence in his life. And it's just got me thinking, I think we're obviously influenced by our relationships, but we're influenced by so much today. I mean, that's even like a category of person and brand that we have in our life today, right? Is an influencer. And so, man, we're influenced by so much. How are we today supposed to tell the difference? Like, it's kind of nice John stepping in and helping this guy see the difference of who's a bad influence and who's a good one. How do we take that into our own lives and say, man, who is maybe an unhealthy or an unhelpful influence, or what is, and how do I know what's a positive influence in my life? How do we discern those things?
Yeah, I think when I think about that, I'll practically speak to myself. I don't know if I have categories, but, some of it is, are they encouraging me in my faith? So like when I'm listening to that person or that, following that web page or listening to that news article or hanging out with a friend, do I walk away going, okay, I need to walk with the Lord. I need to think biblically about this issue, think biblically about my situation. Or do I just kind of go down the rabbit hole of negativity or of anger or of judgmental attitudes or of course, they're all idiots and, you and I think the same way. So do I have that, are they pushing me toward my faith, toward Christ? That's one thing. The other side is, can I just be myself? Am I able to, with that person, voice my concern without feeling judged from them? Can I voice my doubt and my struggles without being condemned because I don't have it all figured out? About an issue or a theological thing or whatever. So I kind of look at it personally from, are they pushing me toward my faith? That's going to be helpful. If they're not, and that, so, does my attitude go down when I'm with them or when I watch them? What about, do I find myself like my own, the language I use, am I becoming more vengeful or hateful or vulgar or whatever because I'm hanging out with them or whatever? And then can I just be myself with them? Are they a helpful person to me? If I'm with them, can I let my hair down? Talk about my doubts, talk about my struggles.
There's room to question.
And if there's not, then I'm thinking, well, I love you for some stuff, but man, I can't have you influence all of my life.
That's a really good tension to live in, because I think it's easy to say, man, there's just unhelpful people and there's helpful people. There's just bad influences and good influences, when in reality, people are more complicated than that, and we're more complicated than that, where some people are just unhelpful in certain areas, right? Like, it's just not helpful for me to talk about this issue with these people in my life. It just does not lead me to a good spot, which doesn't mean then, I think it's so our culture to be like, so that just means like never hang out with them, just cut them out of your life. It doesn't mean I cut them out of my life. It's probably not gonna be wise for us to talk about these things or for us to be in this context together or whatever it is. And I think about that. Like, I think about, man, when I have frustrations with the way that things are going, there's some people that I talk to that as I talk to them, I just get more frustrated, not even with the person I'm talking to, but they just they rile me up. And it's like we're just increasing each other's angst and negativity and frustration over something, where I have other people who are like, I see what you're saying, but have you thought about, and they kind of try to round out the situation a little bit. And at the end of the day, that's going to be more helpful to me because that's giving me perspective in some things that I'm frustrated about versus somebody who's just helping me tunnel down into more frustration and more anger. And so I think it's got to be more complicated than just and for sure there's going to be some people who are just categorically unhealthy to have in my life, and it's just not going to be a good idea for us to hang out, and that's okay. But in general, somebody's not going to neatly fit into unhealthy. They're going to be great in certain areas of my life, but other things are just not going to be conducive.
That's a good point.
So when you run into somebody or even something like, man, I've got this, whether it's this news station or it's this person on social media or it's this category of movies or whatever it is, when you run into something that's not helpful, what do you do about it? Like, obviously, like the first gut answer would be like, well, just cut it out. But like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, I think it depends again, like on the category. So like I've unfollowed people on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because, there may be a friend or connected with me, they're in my weight class, but what they start posting is either really vulgar or it's real sexual or it's real whatever. And I just think, I got to stop that. So I, just stop unfollowing them.
Yeah. Or
I'm still their friend, but I unfollow them so they're not on my feed.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like it's actually going to be easier for us to be friends if I don't follow you on
Instagram. That's right.
Instagram.
Exactly. So I can engage you when you're not, whatever you're doing. So I don't want to say it in case somebody's watching this that I've done that.
They're going to go back through and they're like, is Paul still following me?
That's right. Yeah.
I don't think he is.
Because I'll still be your friend, but I unfollow you, so it's on my feed. So anyways, sometimes that's what I do for the social stuff, but if it's like a friend, like, hey, you're a buddy of mine I go to work with all the time, but for whatever reason, every time I'm with you, I just, cuss, I drink, I smoke, I kill, I maim, whatever it is. Whenever I'm with you, I just go down this rabbit trail that is bad.
Yeah.
I've had to remove myself from, it sounds silly, but make excuses. Hey, I'm tired. I can't go out tonight, whatever. Or I try to, if I'm going to pursue it, I set the environment by which we're going to hang out. So let's go out. Let's go to a movie tonight, not to the bar.
Yeah. I'm going to set up the circumstance.
That's right. So I get to control at least some level of the environment. So it's not, we're at the bar and the next thing we know, we're going down.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to, so when I think of people in my life, and at this point, there's very few people that are in that bad, unhelpful category that are close friends.
Yeah.
Just because of my stage of life. But when I was, in high school and college, even, that was a little.
There's
different.
a lot of discerning that's happening.
Oh yeah, or even as I talk to my kids, hey kids, let's think through who are you hanging out with, and so as parents, sometimes I oh yeah, I will drive across town for you to hang out with this friend because that friendship I want you to. It's a good friend to have.
Yeah.
This friendship, I'm not sure we can have you spend the night over there, So it is that discerning, but I think more and more these days, at least for my stage of life, it's not so much my close friends and how do I discern who's helpful. It's my friends who I'm connected with through the socials or different websites I go to. I'm like, man, I got to stop watching that TV show.
Yeah.
Because it's just bringing me down a rabbit trail.
Yeah. It's not helpful. Yeah. That's really good.
So it's, I think different life, again, for a high school kid who's got friends at the school and they're being tugged at, that's such a different thing. Or maybe you're in college, or maybe you're young.
Or even if I'm even thinking on that same line, if you're recently converted, right? And you're just coming to Christ and you've got all these friends from your past life who we would say, man, this is the opportunity to influence them and show them what it looks like to be a Christian and show them how your life has changed. But then at the same time, you're worrying like, man, well, we used to always do these things every time we'd hang out.
This is what we did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go Friday night and do that. That's what they want to do. And so you're stuck going, well, do I go with them and just try to resist, or there's a season where it's like, no, I need to refrain from going on Friday nights, or always say, hey guys, I don't want to do that. Let's go to a movie, or why don't we come to my house and we'll watch a movie or whatever, let's go hiking or whatever we're going to do. Because because yourself, if you go hang out with them in that environment, you're going to fall.
I love that idea of reframing it instead of saying, because I think, again, we're so quick to just be like, okay, that's like, you're dead to me. Like, let's just reframe the way that we hang out, because it's not going to be helpful for me if it's in this context that we used to hang out in. But let's just reframe it. I even think about that with hobbies. Like I think about how real quickly in marriage, I realized that it's not like a sinful hobby or anything like that. I love unwinding with video games. It's helpful. I enjoy it. It kind of clears my mind. And one of the things I realized really quickly though is like that's not helpful to my marriage. So even though I enjoy it, even though it's a kind of clears my mind in the day kind of a thing, it's not helpful to my marriage. So one of the things that I have kind of developed over the course of my marriage so far is just like, well, if Sky's not home, then I'll play video games. But if she's home, then I've got to find another way to kind of unwind at the end of the day or whatever it is, because that just wasn't, that hobby, though it wasn't even like a bad hobby, it just wasn't helpful.
Sure.
So I think that kind of idea of reframing it, instead of saying like, we're just so quick to say, I've got to cut everything out of my life. And then we end up resentful, or we end up alone and isolated, no friends. Instead saying, man, how can I reframe the hobbies? And
I think we got to be willing to admit, hey, especially from that new believer standpoint, I've come to Christ, I'm trying to get away from that, those group of friends or those environments. And it's hard to do that. And it's okay, not okay, but at times you're going to fall back into it.
Yeah. That's a natural part of the Christian life.
You're going to get caught up in maybe you're trying to be less vulgar with people, and then the next thing you know, you watch a Netflix show and it's vulgar, but it's kind of into it, and so the next thing you know, you binge watch the whole thing, and then you feel horrible about it. Well, I'm glad you feel horrible about it, but recognize it happens.
Yeah.
So be a little bit more careful.
You're on a journey.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's what it is.
That's good. Well, hopefully this has been helpful and you've got some tangible takeaways from this weekend's message. We'd encourage you, just drop a tangible takeaway that you have down in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and share it with a friend.
Share it with everybody that the first one we did is good, and this one
just blow it up.
Blows it up.
Paul wants to blow it up. That's all we got for this week. We'll catch you guys next week on Tangible Takeaways.